Okay, now let's dig into awareness. But I'm going to talk about something that's a little different than what you might be thinking of with awareness. I'm going to go a little deeper. And what I mean is if you look at what most people traditionally think of as awareness, it's actually reach. When you buy radio or TV, they're going to tell you how many people you reach. They're going to tell you how many impressions you make, or at least the opportunity. That's a whole other story about what actually happens in mass media. You know, if you're buying billboards, you're going to talk about how many people have the opportunity to see your billboard. And then even on social media and email and text and direct mail, you've got reach. But I want you to ask yourself one question. Are you making people aware, or are you just reaching people? And what I mean by that is I can be in my car listening to the radio when your commercial comes on. That doesn't mean I actually heard it. Doesn't mean I'm actually aware of your brand. I could be on Facebook scrolling through my timeline, and your Facebook post or ad may reach me, may make 3, 4, 5 impressions on me, at least to the phone, but am I aware of your ad? More importantly, am I aware of the message within it? Because I might see your restaurant's name. I might see your logo. I might see a giant steak that looks amazing. But is the message impacting me? Is it causing me to take action? And that is a huge, huge mystery in a lot of marketing. So what I want to talk about in this chapter is understanding how you can take people from just simply reaching them or simply gaining their attention and leading them down an opportunity for engagement. And we're going to talk a little later in this chapter about the power of engagement marketing. Before we get into that, I want to cover a couple things. Number one, I want you to think about, are the people you're trying to reach with your message, the people you're trying to make an impact on, the people you're trying to gain awareness and get engagement from, the right people? And that's a mystery with a lot of marketing. When I sold radio advertising back in the late 90s and early 2000s, we bragged about our audience. We bragged about the age and the income and the home ownership stats and all this different stuff, the number of kids, how often they ate out. At the end of the day, we honestly didn't know. Most radio stations, TV stations, mass media, it's a number that is extrapolated out among a very small sample of diaries. So you really don't know if you're reaching the right people. Now you can assume if you're advertising on a Bengals radio network pregame show that you're probably reaching Bengals fans, and the Bengals probably have a pretty good opportunity, pretty good layout of who their audience is and who typically watches the games and comes to the games. But you don't know exactly. But you also have to look at, are those people even the right people? Because a lot of times your marketing message is wasted on people that aren't the actual people that you should be targeting. When I've talked about in past books I've written and in other podcasts and things of that nature, I've talked about create your own radio station. And what I mean by that and where that came from in my head, and when I've spoke about it at conferences, and it's hard to explain over audio if you're listening to this on the audio, but if you're seeing it in a picture, it's easy to look at. But if you can imagine, look about a 60-mile radius around your restaurant. Now let's imagine, just for this example, you have one location. And let's say that location is in northern Kentucky. Let's say it's in Union, Kentucky. That's where I'm located right now. And I look at a 60-mile radius. That's where most marketing is going to target: radio, TV, different methods like that. And so I look at that 60-mile radius and I pinpoint my audience in northern Kentucky. And then I think about the number of people that I can impact in that 60 miles. And when I wrote the stuff I've talked about with Create Your Own Radio Station, I've talked about the value or lack of value of most of the people in that radius. Because if you look at a radio station where this concept came from, they're selling you the appeal of reaching this big audience across a large geographic area. When in fact, the majority of the people within your your restaurant's reach are a couple miles. And then when you actually start looking at, okay, the people that are within a couple miles that actually heard my commercial, the people that heard my commercial that actually listened and understood what I was talking about, the people that are in the market to eat with my restaurant right now, it's very small. And that's where the create your own radio station came from. As I've always said, that if you do the right things with your marketing and you build an email list, a text list, a retargeting list from your online content, online social media, a direct mail list, actually, you can build your own audience and have a larger reach than any radio station ever could imagine. When I first thought this concept up years ago, I was speaking on behalf of Constant Contact at a local marketing seminar in Cincinnati. And I pulled a guy out of the crowd and used an example. I asked him his personal Facebook reach, his personal LinkedIn reach, his email list, the phone numbers in his phone. We walked out a handful of places, and he reached about 2,500 people that he could, unduplicated people that knew who he was, knew who his business was, he could personally reach out to pretty simply. When we looked at the opportunity of people that didn't know him that he could reach on radio, TV, other places, it was not even close. It was in the hundreds. And so I've always said, create your own radio station. Use your marketing to build your own audience of people who know, like, and trust you. That's what I'm talking about with the right people. When you start buying marketing, when you start doing marketing within your restaurant, within the different local medias, when you start doing things on social media, you need to make sure you're talking to the right people. Now, we're going to get into messaging down the road because messaging really plays into that. But it also comes down to 3 categories, in my mind at least: new customers, frequent customers, and lost customers. Your goal of your business and your marketing should be to identify who the ideal new customers are. You should be able to identify who your frequent customers are. And you should be able to identify who your lost customers are. And we're going to talk about, when it comes to engagement, of how you can use those to reach the right people. Because if you have marketing that you build that gets reach, like we talked about in the first step, and then you get that to go from reach to making an impression on somebody and gaining their awareness, and then you take it to engagement, we're going to talk to last, that engagement can help you take the steps to reaching the right people. So now let's talk about the types of marketing you can use. Obviously, we're all familiar with mass media, radio, TV. I'll put direct mail in there because there's a lot of mass mailings out there, billboards, professional sports marketing, all of that stuff. For most of the people that are going to read this book or listen to it, because it is on audio, mass media is not the opportunity for you. Unless you have a deep enough marketing budget, let's just call it FU money, that you can spend at great levels on all the normal parts of what you should be, what I call the bases. Like my dad always says, you shouldn't build a house on sand because it'll eventually sink. You shouldn't build a marketing plan on sand either. If you build a marketing plan based on mass media, it's eventually going to fall apart. You want to build a marketing plan based on creating your own radio station, your database, reaching people who know, like, and trust you, finding out who your ideal new customers are, who your frequent customers are, and who the people that haven't come back in a while are, your lost customers. That is where you start the foundation. And if you're not doing all of that, you should ignore mass media. Now let's go to the next step. This is one that's near and dear to my heart because it's one of the biggest opportunities out there. That's grassroots marketing. You should dominate grassroots marketing. And grassroots marketing, to me, is shaking hands and kissing babies of people that should be doing business with you. There's a restaurant called Flip Daddy's that went out of business blocks, not blocks, a couple miles from my house. Well, in between my house and Flip Daddy's, I think it's probably, if I had to guess, 2 to 3 miles. In between us is a campus for a school, Ryle High School, which also has Gray Middle School, and there's an elementary school on the campus, and across the street another elementary school. I can't even count on my hands the number of times I saw Flip Daddy doing grassroots marketing at sporting events there. Why? Because it's zero. My daughter cheered. My son played football. They both swam. I went and saw friends' kids playing band competitions up there. I've been up at the track numerous times working out on my own. I've been to many school events. Nowhere to be seen. This is a restaurant that thrives on parents with kids coming to eat there. And they never made the effort to walk out their door, go down to the school, and market. And to me, it made complete sense when they closed up, because they didn't do what I think is one of the most important things, and that's connect with your community, grassroots marketing. So grassroots marketing is an amazing way to reach the right people and to make an impression. Because if I'm a restaurant owner and I see a consumer at a high school football game, and I can make an impression on them and give them some reason to come to my restaurant, or get their information and give them some reason to want to come to my restaurant, like a free item or a contest or whatever, or just simply supporting their school, now I'm getting that impression I'm talking about. I'm getting that engagement. And some of the tools we're going to talk about later in the book, you can use to get people into your radio station, as we call it. You can, instead of handing out free appetizer cards at a football game like I've seen restaurants do, have them scan a code and enter to win a $100 gift card. Have them text a number in to enter to win a contest, or text in to get the free appetizer. There's a lot of things you can do to deliver what you want to deliver to them, but also, more importantly, get their information. That's a different chapter. That's called Building a Database, but wanted to put that in there. 4 walls marketing is another avenue. The third one here we talked about mass media, talked about grassroots. Now let's talk about 4 walls. Easily the number one opportunity for you to reach the exact correct, customer you want to reach. I'm thinking that's even the right term, the exact customer you want to reach. Because guess what? They've already taken the step to find out who you are. You've already earned their trust that they walked into your business. And now you've got an opportunity to wow them, and you probably did. Most restaurants nowadays, I don't run across many restaurants that don't have great service, great food, and great experience. It's just not as common now in 2020 as it was in 2010 to have bad elements. I think online marketing, online reviews have maybe made people realize they have to over-deliver and have to do some great things to wow people. But 4 walls is your opportunity to take that grassroots marketing to the next level, because it is grassroots. It's just within your 4 walls. You're shaking hands, you're kissing babies. But now you know that person has already passed a lot of the elements. The hardest part it is to get somebody to come to your restaurant. They've already passed that. And so now you have the opportunity to get their information and to find out who they are, identify who they are. Are they a new customer, first time visiting? Are they a frequent, they come all the time? Or are they a customer that's visiting for the first time in a while and they're a lost customer? Again, we're going to talk about some of those elements in the database collection part. Next, 4th item, social media. Social media is an amazing place to reach customers, to make impressions, to gain awareness. But honestly, it is the number one opportunity to get engagement. We're going to talk about that in a minute, so I'm going to jump forward to the next item. And that is direct contact. The last item, my 5 elements of how I think you can get awareness. And there's more out there, but these are the 5 I look at. We talked about mass media. We talked about grassroots. We transitioned from grassroots into 4 walls, a lot of similarities. We just briefly touched on social media. Now we're talking about direct contact. Directly reaching out to people on email, text, or mail. Because now you have their information. And if you have enough of their information, you can target that message at a very high level. So email and text. Email is a great medium. It's not used enough by businesses. And then the people who do use it incorrectly many times, including my company. We're constantly evolving to how we can become better at using email marketing. Because the biggest missed opportunity is called segmentation. There's nothing worse than a restaurant emailing a 20,000 person email list a kids eat free promotion. Because guess what? 10,000 of your list don't have kids. They don't care about kids eat free. So you're talking about something that does not benefit them. They tune you out. Text messaging is a great one. We're going to talk about different ways you can use these tactics down the road, but texting is a great way to reach people. It gets 99% open rate. Facebook Messenger, which is soon to be tied in, maybe it is the time this comes out, with Instagram and WhatsApp. Messenger services are great. There's different platforms that have Messenger, and I think it's going to be a big item in the near future. And then mail, good old-fashioned mail. It's still an opportunity. I'm not talking about direct mail and mass mail. I'm talking about a mailing that goes to Matt Plapp for a specific reason because I gave you my information. And it's a thing that a lot of restaurants don't collect right now. So now let's circle it all back. We talked about the types of marketing. Now I want to talk about the right audiences. And the right audiences only comes from the next two steps. So step 4 to me is finding the right audiences. Step 5 is engagement, is getting engagement in your marketing so that you can start to identify that right audience. And then 6 is optimizing off of the engagement. So let's walk through it. So you're going to build out a profile in your marketing, and you're going to have a message that you narrow down and try and talk to people. In the marketing world, they call that an avatar. And a lot of times businesses try to be too broad, but I want you to picture you're building an ad for that kids eat free night, for lunch with the kids with moms, moms and dads, whatever the audience is. You're building a very specific message. What is the opportunity here? And you want to build the ad around that. Who is the 100% most likely customer to take advantage of this? And as a friend of mine says, you need to get really, really, really targeted. You need to profile the heck out of this. You need to look at this and get so specific that you're thinking, I'm only talking to one person. Her name is Linda. She lives on this street. She has 2 kids. She's married. Get that specific. When you get that specific, your message resonates. And when your message resonates in marketing, that awareness we talked about turns into engagement. So I want you to envision that we're trying to attract a crowd of women with kids to come to the restaurant on family nights, after high school football games, on the weekends, for birthday parties, whatever. We're trying to get that 35 to 45-year-old female who's also married with 2 kids and the other families. So you build out your messaging. You build out your call to action. You build out your profile in, let's say, I'm just going to use Facebook and Instagram as an example because that's where this is leading. And you go into Facebook and Instagram and you build out married, this age, kids, and you might build out a couple profiles. Now, you don't necessarily have to do that. We're going to get into that down the road, but you can put them in there. You can put some different things you think that person might follow. And now all of a sudden you've got a picture that resonates with that. So you find some creative. Don't get too adsy. Don't get too fancy with the camera. A lot of times the content you use to get awareness that works best, we're not going to go down this rabbit hole completely, but the stuff that gets best is things that's created by your customers, things you can get for free, user-generated content. There's going to be information on that later in the book as well. But you've got that picture that really speaks to a mom. You've got the headline that grabs the mom's attention. You've got a call to action she can't pass up. The next step to all of that is, how do you get her to engage? Meaning, you got a picture. I'm going to paint a picture for you. You've got a picture of a 7-year-old, blonde-haired, blue-eyed little boy who's got a rib bone up to his face. He's got barbecue sauce on his cheek. He's pulling the meat off of the bone. And behind him, you can see mom cracking up laughing, because we've all had it. My son Cole always has food on his face. As he gets older, it gets less. When he was little, it was a mess. And the headline is something like, whose kid gets more food on their face than their stomach? The next line, we want to treat you and your family to an amazing meal. Comment below if you've got a kid in your family that seems to get more sauce on their face and shirt than they probably do in their stomach. When you comment below, we'll send you a great message, a great offer through Facebook Messenger to get you enrolled in our VIP program. Or maybe it's click below to visit a landing page to enter to win a contest for a $100 gift card. Maybe it's click below to enter to go to Facebook Messenger. Maybe it's click the button below to get a text message, whatever it is. You're trying to get them to engage. What you're trying to do is get them to raise their hand. Because think about it. You put a message in front of the right audience. You catch their attention. And now you get that attention by them engaging and raising their hand and saying, that's me. That's my family. That's my kid. So now we're not going to go into the depth of building a database off of that. But the next step is once you get people to engage at that level and then you take them somewhere else, you're able to do the very last step of this whole entire chapter. And that is optimizing off of engagement. Because as I talked about earlier, awareness is great. That's what reach is. That's what impressions is. But are people really aware when you reach them with a commercial or with a Facebook ad, with an Instagram ad, with a video on YouTube? No, they're not. When they engage, they are aware. And when you get them to engage and you get them to do what you want them to do, raise their hand, now all of a sudden you get more data to go back to Facebook and Instagram and other places. And now you can optimize your future marketing off of engagement. And in this book, we're going to talk about some tactics specifically in Facebook and Instagram that allow you to not only do that, but allow you when those people raise their hand, and we talk about the database gathering part of the book, when they raise their hand, you find out, have you been to the restaurant before? Yes or no? No. Well, guess what? You just identified people who engage, who you got their awareness, you reached them, you got their awareness, you got them to engage, you got them to raise their hand, and now you know they're a new customer. The ones that say, yes, I have been, you ask them a couple questions or maybe a simple question of, are you a frequent customer or you come occasionally? Now you can come with frequent and lost, because an occasional customer in my mind is lost because you haven't gotten them to become frequent yet. And so now you're able to get people again to raise their hand, and you know new, frequent, and lost. And from there, you can throw gasoline on the fire, as they say, and optimize the heck out of your upfront marketing by feeding data back there and saying, hey, Facebook, hey, Instagram, all of these people engaged in my ad. So if, let's say 1,000 people engaged in this ad, in this post. Of these 1,000, 700 took the next step and opted in. They raised their hand at the highest level. They said, here's who I am. Take my info. Give me something of value. And then of those people, of those, let's say 700 people out of the 1,000, 100 said they were new. These 250 said they were frequent. These 250 said they were lost. Guess what? Now you can target the right people, because now you can find new people on the front end that look identical to your frequent customers. And when you do that, you get rid of the fat. You trim the fat from your ad campaigns. But at the same time, now you're able to build awareness campaigns and say, okay, Facebook, these people raised their hands. They told us all their information. They identified themselves as new customers. I'm going to have a different level awareness campaign go to them that now all of a sudden they're going to be really aware because they've already went through one part of the funnel, and you'll see that a little later in diagrams. And then if it's people that are lost, I can be a little humorous and find out how to get them back or find out how to get them to become more frequent. That's deeper awareness to the right people. So what we talked about in this chapter, to recap, is thinking about awareness with your marketing, not as simply reaching somebody, not as simply getting in front of somebody, but we want to get them to raise their hand. If they raise their hand and engage in your marketing, it allows you to capitalize off of that engagement and optimize the front end of your marketing funnel at a very high level. That's all I got for this chapter. See you next chapter.